A change of pace today, as we're going to have a look at my 6mm Napoleonics collection. I started this well over a year ago, I think, and actually got through all these pretty quickly because they're so small, so they're much quicker to paint than bigger scales, before I became distracted by other projects. I did have a 6mm collection once before, on much larger bases, but many, many years ago, and this was me sort of restarting that same project. As you can see here, these are all units for the 1813 campaign. Specifically, I began constructing Lagrange's 21st Division, I think it is, from Marmont's 6th Corps. The 1st and 2nd Brigades of which have a really interesting collection of different units in it, which is what attracted me to creating it. One of which you can see here are the first 4 battalions of the 37th Light Infantry and their associated skirmishers in front. In addition, then, we've got 2 divisional artillery batteries. These were very, very quick to paint. Well, certainly the artillery pieces were. The limbers behind them and the teams took a bit longer, a bit more fiddly, and I painted them obviously separately before I put them on the base and constructed them. They're sort of a little bit of a chore to get through, but at this scale I think are quite worthwhile to do and add something to the battery and help denote when it's moving and so on. This is the Corps Cavalry Brigade, so the 2nd and 4th Chevalier regiments from Wurttemberg. I have taken some liberties. When I did the uniform research on this, I know that there was a bit of back and forth on the headgear and specific colours. In the end, I used the same miniature sculpt for both regiments and decided to distinguish them visually on the tabletop by painting them in 2 different uniforms. I can't remember how plausible necessarily my choices were, but they weren't fantastical. And then at the back there you can see the Wurttemberg horse artillery. They do have 3 limber teams as well. I just hadn't completed them, so I haven't included them in this video. All of the miniatures are 6mm metal figures from Adler Miniatures, and as you can see, they're very, very nice. They do come based in strips, so to base these I've had to cut them apart off the strips, and then a little bit of fiddling just to make sure they're level underneath if need be, using a craft knife just to take off any little bits of metal to get them to sit flat. And then I've just arranged them onto the bases in nice little tight groups, as you can see here. I know some people don't like that about these miniatures and find it a bit more fiddly. It certainly is a little bit more time consuming, but I think it's worth it for the quality of the miniatures. But that's only my opinion on it, of course. At the back here, these 2 battalions, I think I meant them to be some of the Young Guard Tirailleurs, but I couldn't quite remember off the top of my head which regiment they were meant to be. There are a lot more to join them in the future when I go back to painting this project. And then this is an interesting part of the 1st Brigade of the division, because in it you also have the 1st Battalion of the Joseph Napoleon Regiment, which gave me a chance to paint some white uniforms in 6mm scale, which is a lot quicker and more painless than painting them in 28mm. And then 3 battalions of what I've noticed quite a few people are quite fascinated with, the Regiment de Marine, the Naval Infantry, of which 4 different regiments served in Marmont's Corps, and that's 3 of the battalions. The other brigade is made up of 6 battalions of the 2nd Marine Regiment. And then you've got the brigade commander at the front there and the division commander at the back. And you can see among them as well, I've got some additional brigade command stands that I haven't assigned to anybody yet that I've painted, including this one on the end. They're sort of, because they're so small and faintly generic, they could work for anything. And then you've got the regimental commanders as well, you can see on single bases around the place, as well as all the different battalions' skirmishers to mark their skirmish line. They are extremely satisfying to see completed and en masse in this sort of fashion. It's why I liked them when I collected them before and mounted them on large bases, big square bases for Grand Armée, because you can do a lot more with that as well in terms of like diorama effects, but I chose to go a different way with the basing scheme this time. And that's my 6mm collection so far. I've got a lot more of these and the Austrian and Prussian forces to oppose them, and hopefully we'll see them in a video in the future.